Christmas Eve wrapped the city in soft light and false calm. Inside the restaurant, everything glittered: crystal glasses, polished cutlery, golden ribbons hanging from the ceiling. Soft carols played in the background, and the air smelled of roasted meat and cinnamon. It was the kind of place where people came to be seen, where wealth spoke quietly but firmly through tailored suits and diamond watches. Anna adjusted her apron for the 100th time that evening. She had been on her feet since morning, covering a double shift because another waitress had called in sick. Christmas or not, rent didn't wait. Tips had been thin all week, but she kept smiling. She always did. Table 12 was her last table of the night. A man sat there alone, tall, sharp-featured, wearing an expensive suit that probably cost more than her monthly salary. His phone lay on the table beside a set of car keys with a luxury brand logo. He didn't look up when Anna approached. "Good evening, sir. Merry Christmas. May I take your order?" she said gently. He glanced at her briefly, his eyes cold and assessing, as if she were part of the furniture. "About time," he replied. "I've been waiting." Anna apologized, even though she knew she wasn't late. She took his order carefully, repeating it back to avoid mistakes. As she turned to leave, he added, "And make sure it's done right. I don't have patience for incompetence." She nodded and walked away, her cheeks burning but her posture straight. In the kitchen, she took a deep breath and focused on her work. She had learned long ago that responding only made things worse. When she returned with his drink, the man inspected the glass like a judge. "This is not what I asked for," he said loudly. "I'm sorry, sir," Anna replied. "You asked for." "Don't argue with me," he snapped, raising his voice. "Do you know who I am?" The nearby tables fell slightly quieter, curious ears tuning in. Anna swallowed. "I'll replace it immediately," she said. He laughed, a short, humorless sound. "Replace it? With what money?" "Yours." He looked her up and down slowly. "People like you should be grateful just to be here. Serving people like me." The words hit harder than a slap. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Someone stopped eating. The music seemed suddenly too loud, then too quiet. Anna stood still for a moment. Her hands trembled, but she clasped them together. "I'm just doing my job, sir," she said softly. "Your job?" he scoffed. "Your job is to stay invisible. But clearly that's too much to ask." A nervous laugh came from another table, quickly dying out. The manager glanced over from the bar but hesitated. The man at table 12 was known, a wealthy investor, a regular who spent freely and tipped when it pleased him. Anna felt the familiar sting behind her eyes, but she didn't cry. "Not here, not now. I'll get you a new drink," she said, turning away. As she walked, a tear slipped down her cheek despite her effort. She wiped it quickly and went to the bar. The bartender looked at her with concern. "You okay?" he whispered. She nodded. "Just another customer." But when she returned, the man wasn't finished. "Look at this," he said loudly, pointing at the bill she had placed on the table by mistake instead of the receipt copy. "She can't even do simple things. Is this what this place hires now?" That was when the room truly went silent. A man at a nearby table stood up. He was older, dressed simply, with kind but firm eyes. "That's enough," he said calmly. The millionaire turned toward him, irritated. "Mind your business." "It became my business when you decided to humiliate another human being," the man replied. The millionaire laughed. "And who are you supposed to be?" "Just a customer," the man said. "But also someone who believes that dignity doesn't come with a price tag." More people were watching now. Phones were discreetly lowered. The manager stepped closer, unsure whose side to take. "You're overreacting," the millionaire said. "She's a waitress. This is her place." "No," the man answered quietly. "This is her workplace, and you don't get to strip someone of respect just because you're paying for dinner." Anna stood frozen, unsure what to do. Another voice joined in, a woman from the corner table. "He's right. This is Christmas. Shame on you." A murmur of agreement spread through the room. Someone clapped softly, then another. The millionaire's face reddened. "You people have no idea who you're talking to." The older man smiled slightly. "Maybe, or maybe we just know who we are." The manager finally found his courage. "Sir," he said to the millionaire, "I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice." "Or leave." "For her?" the millionaire asked incredulously, pointing at Anna. "For everyone," the manager replied. Silence stretched. The millionaire looked around, realizing the room was no longer on his side. He scoffed, grabbed his coat, and stood up. "This place isn't worth my money," he said, tossing some bills on the table. Keep the change. He walked out, the door closing heavily behind him. For a moment, no one moved. Then the older man turned to Anna. Are you all right? She nodded, tears finally falling freely. Thank you, she whispered. The room erupted into applause, not loud, not theatrical, but sincere. People smiled at her. Some stood. The bartender raised a glass in her direction. The manager approached. Take a break, he said gently. I'll cover your tables. Anna stepped into the back room, her heart pounding. She hadn't expected that. She hadn't expected anyone to care. When she came back out, the older man was still there. He paid his bill and left a generous tip with a small note. It read, "Dignity is priceless. Never forget your worth." Anna folded the note carefully and slipped it into her pocket. That night, as she walked home through the cold streets, the city lights looked different. She still had bills to pay, still had worries waiting for her. But something inside her had changed. She realized that wealth could buy silence, but it couldn't command respect. And sometimes, all it took was one voice to remind a room, and a person, of their humanity. On Christmas Eve, in a glittering restaurant, a millionaire tried to humiliate a waitress. But what everyone remembered wasn't his money. It was her dignity. The days after Christmas usually felt heavier than the holiday itself. The decorations stayed up, but the magic drained away, leaving behind routine and quiet exhaustion. For Anna, returning to work after that night felt different. She didn't know why. Nothing in her life had materially changed, but the memory of standing her ground, of strangers defending her dignity, followed her like a warm coat. When she walked into the restaurant for her next shift, a few coworkers smiled at her differently. Not pity, respect. I heard about what happened, one of the waiters said softly as he tied his apron. You handled it well. Anna shrugged, unsure how to respond. I didn't really do anything. Sometimes, he replied, not breaking is everything. The manager called her into the office before the shift started. Her stomach tightened. She half expected a lecture. Restaurants had a way of protecting money over people. But his tone was calm. I wanted to check in with you, he said. That customer won't be coming back. Anna looked up, surprised. Really? Yes. And for what it's worth, I should have stepped in sooner. That's on me. She nodded, emotions pressing against her chest. An apology from management was rarer than a big tip. That evening, the restaurant filled again. Different faces, similar conversations. Life moved on, yet something subtle had shifted, not just in Anna, but in how people treated her. She stood straighter, she spoke more clearly, and people listened. Near the end of the night, a familiar figure appeared at the door. The older man. He didn't announce himself, didn't seek attention. He took a seat near the window and waited. When Anna noticed him, her heart skipped. She approached carefully. Good evening, sir. He smiled. Good evening. I was hoping you'd be here. She laughed nervously. Can I get you something to drink? Tea will be perfect. When she brought it, he thanked her with genuine warmth. My name is Michael, he said. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself properly. Anna, she replied. And, thank you, again. He waved it off gently. I didn't do much. I just said what should have been said. They spoke briefly, nothing deep, just small, human conversation. Before leaving, Michael paid his bill and added another note. It said, if you ever need a reference, or simply someone to remind you of your strength, here's my number. Anna stared at the paper long after he left. She didn't call right away. Days turned into weeks. Winter deepened. Work stayed busy, relentless. But one evening, after a particularly hard shift where a customer complained about something that wasn't her fault, Anna sat alone in her tiny apartment and cried, not from humiliation, but from exhaustion. That was when she picked up the phone. Michael answered on the second ring. I was hoping you'd call, he said. They met for coffee the following weekend. In the daylight, Michael seemed even simpler than she remembered. No flashy watch, no designer coat, just a man who listened. He asked about her life. And for the first time in a long while, Anna told the truth. She talked about her childhood, about growing up fast, about taking care of her mother until she passed. About dreams she once had, college, writing, a life bigger than surviving shift to shift. I thought dreams were for people who could afford them, she admitted. Michael stirred his coffee thoughtfully. Dreams aren't expensive, fear is. She frowned. What do you do? She asked. I advise companies, he said vaguely. But more importantly, I invest in people. He told her about a small foundation he helped run, one that supported working adults who wanted to continue their education. I'm not offering charity, he said carefully. Only an opportunity, if you want it. Anna didn't answer right away. She had learned to be suspicious of hope. That night, she barely slept. The next week, she applied. Months passed. Anna studied after shifts, her textbooks spread across her kitchen table. It was hard, sometimes unbearable, but every exam she passed felt like reclaiming something stolen. One evening, as she walked home, she saw a familiar luxury car parked near the restaurant. Her heart tightened. The millionaire. He stepped out, older somehow. Less sharp. He didn't see her at first. When he did, recognition flickered across his face. He hesitated. Then, surprisingly, he approached. You, he said. Yes, Anna replied evenly. An awkward silence settled between them. I heard I'm not welcome here anymore, he said stiffly. That's not my decision, she answered. He exhaled slowly. I was having a bad night. That doesn't excuse it. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was close. I lost a deal that day, he continued. Thought the world owed me something. Anna met his eyes. It doesn't. He nodded once. I see that now. Without another word, he walked away. Anna stood there, strangely calm. She didn't feel victorious, just free. A year later, Anna no longer worked double shifts. She still waited, tables part-time, but she was also interning at a publishing office, her first step toward a long-forgotten dream. On the anniversary of that Christmas Eve, the restaurant hosted a small holiday gathering for staff. There were no crystal chandeliers, no wealthy investors, just laughter, shared food, and warmth. Michael attended, quietly sitting in the corner. When Anna raised a toast, her voice didn't shake. To everyone who chooses kindness, she said, and to remembering that no one is invisible. The applause filled the room. Somewhere beyond the lights and the noise, the world kept spinning, unfair, unpredictable, often cruel. But on that night, one truth stood firm. Dignity, once claimed, can never be taken away.